Hot Atlanta, the SEC championship game, live 3 p.m. Saturday. Joe, I got to admit, I think that this is one of the most highly anticipated anytime that Alabama and Georgia play, regardless of where it is, whether it be, I think Georgia played at Alabama or Alabama played at Georgia. I don't remember during the COVID year. The SEC championship game a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021 when Bryce Young won the Heisman. This game is always at a high level. A lot of eyeballs will be on this game. You have Nick Saban's number one protege in Kirby Smart taking on him again in the SEC championship game, which Kirby is 1-3 against Nick. I will get to my thoughts in just a minute, but I know that you're excited about this game. What do you think happens? Who will be the SEC champion?
I came in here kind of thinking I was going to be a little conservative about this, but you know what? I don't give a damn. The Bama fans, they already don't like me. I'm going to be as realistic as possible with this. I don't think Alabama has a chance to win this football game. I just don't. I really, really don't. Yes, we can sit here and talk about how Saban rallies in revenge type situations. He rallies and really flourishes in these spots where there's deficiencies on the roster and they still find ways to win. But when I pay so close attention to what has led to offensive success for this team, defensively, they're fantastic. I will not deny that they have two of the best corners in college football that will go on to be first-round picks in Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Dallas Turner is going to be a first-round pick. There are so many good defensive linemen per usual that we have on this unit. They're going to get after Carson Beck. They're going to force some pressures. There's probably going to be a surprising amount of turnovers by Georgia. I wouldn't be shocked if there's not one or two by this offense. They're going to need that to stay in this game and to win this game. But Alabama's offense, Blake, lives and dies on running the football, Jalen Milroe scrambling, and hitting the deep ball. Every other avenue of offense does not work well for them. And what has allowed other teams to be productive when trying to defend that is they either try to take away the deep ball and they get run all over, or they try to take away the run game and they get beat over the top. Georgia is one of the few teams that they've faced, actually the only team that they've faced, that can cover one-on-one man coverage, any of those deep throws to Jermaine Burton. And they have the defensive front and the linebackers to play the run effectively enough and play good enough contain. I understand it's the Iron Bowl, but if Auburn, with the roster holes that they have, can accomplish that last week, Georgia is going to have no issue defending that offense.
Don't do that to yourself. Don't pigeonhole yourself.
I understand that, but
because
if we have it on film,
or 8 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago, okay, I can also say some of the same stuff about Georgia when they faced Auburn and Jordan Hare.
All right, good point. I'm retracting that statement, though. It's a very good point. Georgia also didn't look super sexy against Georgia Tech.
And they had Brock Bowers.
And they had Brock Bowers.
Not against Georgia Tech, but against Auburn. Right. They obviously, Ladd McConkey and Bowers did not play against Georgia Tech.
The only realistic way that Alabama can win this game is that they keep Georgia under 20 points and they score over 24. I don't think that there's a possible world where they can do that against this defense.
All right. Let me just say this, because, listen, I think Georgia's going to win. I'm going to pick Georgia to win in this one. So don't get what I am about to say misconstrued or misunderstand what I'm saying. Georgia fans, I love you. Just hear me out. Joe, I've been telling you every single week, do not count out Nick Saban. And what do people constantly do every single week? Oh, hell, they got Tennessee this week. And look, it pains me to say what I'm about to say. Oh, they got LSU this week, which LSU.
Yeah, I did this.
Was in there. Okay,
I am this person that you're referring to. I even did it with
you were this person. Okay, but I know Jane Daniels was completely just, let's call it what it is. He was effing that defense up, okay? He had 300 yards and a half. But what people do is they pigeonhole themselves. I think that this arguably could be Nick's best coaching maybe ever, with the limitations that he has offensively at quarterback. I think that this could be arguably one of his best jobs. And you know what else you need? You also need a little bit of luck. And they got that a little bit, okay? Last week when Isaiah Bond came down with that football, by the way, shout out to our guys over at SEC Shorts. They always nail their skits. They're always perfect. I don't think that they're going to win. Like, I am not picking Alabama to win. But one thing that I'm very interested to see in this game, I do think that this is the best defense, really and truthfully, that Carson Beck's seen all year.
Well, it's the best defense that either team has seen all year.
Oh, true. Okay, true. No question. But certainly it's the best defense that Carson Beck has seen. I mean,
yeah.
Joe, who would be his guess? Would it be Missouri, Tennessee? Who is it? Who is the best?
Tennessee, we were talking about this pre-show. I think that Tennessee is a more physically gifted defense. But yeah, I mean, we saw the production that they had against Tennessee.
And they blew them out, right? Like they took care of business against Tennessee. I don't think some of the things that Carson Beck has done necessarily will work against this defense. Now, I do think that Alabama can get home. I think that they can force some 3 and outs. One thing that nobody talks about, Joe, Alabama is top 10 in the country, or top 12 in the country on third down offensively. What are you laughing at?
Someone screenshotted me making that face and tagged me.
All right, back.
Sorry, I'm sending it to you.
Back to the point. I know that Alabama has a lot of limitations offensively. I'm not going to come on here and argue that. But to say that they are just completely anemic is also not true. I understand that you live by the sword and you die by the sword. But there's one thing that nobody that I have heard is accounting for. Joe, when you have a quarterback against Kirby or Nick that can run and scramble and pick up first downs with their legs, that has been their kryptonite. And when you say it hasn't been Kirby's, maybe it hasn't been Kirby's yet. But Kirby was also at Alabama when guys like Trevor Knight ran all over him. I've seen it with them. I know that the number one kryptonite that has always been for Kirby and Nick has been dudes that can run. Always. So I don't think I keep hearing from people that they are going to blow out Alabama. And you know what, Joe, they might. They might go into Atlanta and blow them out.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a closer game than anybody thinks, because nobody, and I can't believe that I got to be the person to remind people of this, do not misunderstand who that guy is, the little guy on the sidelines named Nick Saban. Don't forget that he exists on that sideline. Now, I think that Bama is going to throw things at Carson Beck, and Kevin Steele's going to throw things at Carson Beck he hasn't seen all year. I don't think it matters, because I think ultimately depth is going to be a factor here. I think Carson Beck is the better quarterback. I think he will make enough plays, but they are also banged up on offense. And if you're going to make the same excuse about Auburn or Alabama versus Auburn, Georgia Tech is not a better team than Auburn. They are not. And Georgia still struggled at times when they did not
agree with that. I don't agree
Auburn
with that.
Is much
Auburn lost to New Mexico State. We're not comparing. The Georgia Tech has been. I have clowned on Georgia Tech, but if they played each other right now, they beat Auburn.
They would not beat Auburn. You know, because there's also a really bad game that Georgia Tech lost. Would you like me to remind you of that?
They lost to Bowling Green.
They lost to Bowling Green. So
I don't think that's a foregone conclusion.
Loss. By the way, put New Mexico State in the playoff.
All right, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Do not, again, Georgia fans, I am picking you to win. Don't misunderstand me. but do not discredit the A on the side of their helmets. Oh, well, it's technically numbers, but don't throw them to the wolves and say there's no chance, because there is a chance.
I think there's two things here that are in line with what you're talking about. I have watched Carson Beck develop and show, and I've said this every single week, I've watched him improve on a weekly basis and show just tremendous proficiency. He doesn't have a bad game. He doesn't have a single bad game. How many times have we watched Jalen Milroe get bailed out? How many times have we watched Jalen Milroe play poor football and get bailed out? His best performances have come against some of the worst defenses that he has faced. And we don't even want to talk about the ways that he played against Ole Miss, the mistakes that he made against Texas A&M, the first half against Tennessee. I mean, shit, we completely forget that against Auburn, twice he ran past the line of scrimmage, multiple yards, and tried to throw the ball. We forget about that because he threw a 30-yard touchdown to win the game in a miraculous fashion. Great play, but there is a difference to me between these two quarterbacks in the level of impact that they provide in the game. And I think that when one team has a more balanced offense, I'm absolutely giving him an edge for having a better quarterback. One other piece to this final thought, I think, and I said this to you pre-show, the only way that Georgia or Alabama wins this game is that if Tommy Rees in the offense calls the best game that they've had all season, that they have a perfect game plan. They can't make mistakes in this game. They can't turn the ball over. They can't take more than 3 sacks. They can't. They're not in that type of a position. They have to score on as many drives as possible because of the matchup that they're dealing with.
I agree with everything you just said. Let me backtrack on something.
Okay.
The best defense that Alabama saw, you want to get really mad? Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a top 8 defense, total defense. And what did we see in that game? Late in that game, Jalen Milroe getting out of pressure from, I'm going to call it what it is, the best defensive line in college football. They are the best D-line in college football, without question.
Okay.
Getting out of pressure, getting to his, let's call it what it is, his second progression, okay, and throwing a bomb to Jermaine Burton. He has had times where he's faced a really good defense and they found ways to win. Now, I do think A&M fumbled the bag on that game. That's ultimately what got Jimbo fired, okay? That was the nail in the coffin. Let me talk a little bit about Georgia here. I think Georgia has the green grass athletes to take care of Jalen Milroe running the football. I also think that they have the better so for example, okay, I don't think that they're going to get LSU'd, right? Like, he's not going to be able to do that because they're going to slide, they're going to get after him. They got to play keep away. And look, the only team in the country with a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense is Georgia. It does stylistically, crazy or not, I don't think it's a good matchup for Alabama. Like, I really don't. I mean,
that's a big reason for everything I said is because of that.
It's not a good matchup. But I will say that I have not seen Georgia play a team this good. And I will be interested to see how they react to it. Now, let me ask you the ultimate question. Okay. I do think they're going to win the SEC. I think that they're on path to have a three-peat. Okay. I just don't like when everybody says they're going to blow them out. I think that this game is going to be more highly competitive. Joe, the line's 4.5.
Make sure you check out Bet Online for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.